How can you not be romantic about baseball? Detroit, a city that has struggled in every single sport you can imagine. Playoff droughts longer than any other team. 2014, the last time the Tigers made a playoff series. How about this team? How about the ability to go in when all of the odds were stacked against you? People were counting you out. Computers were counting you out. They said you had less than 0.1% of a chance to make the playoffs. And look at where we are now. Look at what happened. Look at these gritty Tigers. How they were able to not only look past the odds, but to defy the odds. This not only is a huge day for Detroit fans, for the Detroit players, for RJ Hinch. This is a big day for the city. You know, normally I come on this podcast, there's a format, there's a structure. This one's going to be a little different. It's more than just reacting to the game. The game that was clinched by a Wencel Perez catch where he almost fell over Parker Meadows and didn't make the catch. Defensive woes have struggled this team, but they found a way to get through it. And I think that is a way we can look at the city of Detroit over the past 10, even 20 years. And when you narrow down on the Tigers, the last 10 years, it's been a lot of things. There's been changes in ownership. You know, obviously we had Al Avila, and now we have Scott Harris, and there's so many new faces at the organization. And it started to seem like it took a turn when the Tigers signed RJ Hinch. You had the big signings of Baez and Eduardo Rodriguez. One player that is injured and the other one is not with the organization right now. And it's crazy to think the level that the Tigers have excelled and changed from where we were. To recap the past 10 years, there's no simple way to explain it. There were ups, there were downs, there were years with high expectations. There were players with high expectations. There were players who are now gone, rookies who showed out. Like one player that really comes to mind is Akil Baddoo. He restored faith in this city, but there's something about this 2024 team that has done more than what any other team has done. No, it's not just the fact that they just clinched the playoffs, although that is huge. It's throughout the season, you have seen the fight of these Tigers. Right? We were sellers at the deadline. A lot of people didn't Bleav after that. There were plenty of rookies getting called up. Plenty of guys acquired in trades that hadn't yet played in the major leagues. A lot of people thought it was over. You know who didn't? The locker room. In this second half, we've seen the emergence of guys like Colt Keith. We've seen the emergence of guys like Trey Sweeney, Sean Gunther. Chris Fetter has worked his magic in the rotation. The Tigers are probably the most unique team in baseball. They are the youngest. They are so close. And it's infectious. When you watch a Tigers game, even throughout the season, even when the Tigers were losing, even when they were significantly under 500, there was something about this team where you always knew they would fight. Because there's something to be said about a team who is happy even in the losses. The camaraderie of this Tigers team is unrivaled. I don't think any team compares. And when you look at the circumstance, when you look at all the people who doubted, when you looked at the rest of the season, the outlook of the season, how it was supposed to go down, no national analyst could have ever expected this. But Detroit did. Detroit never ever stopped believing. This is just to put some emphasis on this. I am 17 years old. The last time the Detroit Tigers made a playoff game, I was 7. I was in the 2nd grade. There's a big jump from that. You obviously have people who were 15, 14 the last time the Tigers made a playoff game. It's possible they have kids now. It has been so long for the city, and this city has came back from a treacherous deficit that they had before. The city was in a bad space. Now, all of the sports are coming together. The entire state of Michigan is coming together to unite under this Tigers team. We saw a sold-out crowd. You want to know the last times there's been a sold-out crowd in Comerica Park? It's been when Shohei Ohtani comes to town, opening day 2022, and that is it. Over the last 3 years, opening day 2022 and Shohei Ohtani. Those are the only 2 times the Detroit Tigers have sold out Comerica Park. But they did it tonight on a game where 2 months ago it would have seemed irrelevant. Oh, some random game at the end of the season for the Tigers. Oh, they're going to be 77 wins, 78 wins. That's not what it was. This game was significant. This game in itself showed what the Tigers are about. Never took their opponent unseriously, took Garrett Crochet very seriously, and he dealt. He punched 6 Tigers hitters out, and the Tigers never gave up. And I think that's what is so poetic about this team. They have never given up. Never, not once throughout the season. There's not one player currently on this roster who has given up. And I want to go in, truthfully, go through every single player on the roster and go through their contribution. Okay, because the job is not done. But in a lot of Tigers fans' eyes, they've already done a good enough job. From a pitching perspective, you cannot have a pitching coach better than Chris Fetter. There just isn't one. He has shown throughout the season that he can turn a 5 ERA AAA pitcher, a 6 ERA AAA pitcher, into an elite, lockdown MLB level guy. We have seen it with plenty of players. We saw it with Tyler Holton, who was claimed off of waivers. He has now had the most innings out of any reliever in baseball. He has filled every single role. He's been a closer. He's been a setup guy. He's been a guy that just faced lefties. He's been an opener. He's pitched in every single inning throughout the year. If you don't have a guy like Tyler Holton, you're probably not in this situation. We want to know why you're in that situation. Chris Fetter is the best pitching coach in the MLB, and there is no argument behind that. Even today, the Tigers only gave up 1 run. You can say the White Sox offense is what it is. Giving up only 1 run in a ball game to any team is impressive. It doesn't matter the record of the team. It doesn't matter how many runs they average per game. It's impressive. Obviously, you had Brennan Hanafy. He was lights out. He's at a 1.84 ERA in the season. You have Brent Herter, 2.5 ERA in the season. Will Vest, 2.8. Will Holton, 2.1. Foley with the save, coming in with the season on his back, and he delivered. 28th save of the year, 3.1 ERA for Jason Foley. And it's kind of poetic how we've seen this change in a bullpen. Because if you remember in the past 5 years, the Tigers weren't always known for having the best bullpen. There was a time even this season where the Tigers were struggling. In that kind of mid-August run, maybe even a little bit before that, maybe mid-July, the Tigers really struggled out of the bullpen. Had one of the worst bullpen ERAs in the MLB during that stretch. But now see where we are. Now see what AJ Hinch has delivered. No other team uses openers to the level like AJ Hinch does. No team is deeper into the matchups game than AJ Hinch is. And for all of the criticism that he has received, AJ Hinch is the most creative manager in baseball. He took a team that on Fangraphs on August 22nd had a 0.2% chance of making the playoffs. 0.2. Not 1 in 100, not 1 in 200. 0.2% chance of making the playoffs. How did that happen? You would think it would be the Tigers just had such elite starters and they were just able to pummel guys. No. Tigers lost a lot of their starters. A lot to injury. You know, obviously you had Manning go down, and you had Mize, and you had Olsen, and you had all of these guys who held apart this rotation, and then you obviously had Maeda's move to the bullpen. That's significant as well. Your two starters for a while, it was Kaider Montero and it was Tarek Skubal. And that was it. But you have seen the work that AJ Hinch has done with guys like Brant Herter and guys like Sean Gunther. It's insane to see. And this feels like a season look back because it is. I will say no other manager could have done with this Tigers team what AJ Hinch did this year. And that is 100% fair to say. No manager is more creative. No manager is bold to pass his ideas out to the MLB like AJ Hinch is. And now it is time as a city that we celebrate AJ Hinch. And we celebrate all the players on this roster. Like even just going through the starting lineup today. You had Ibanez. You had, Colt Keith coming in for Ibanez. And one thing AJ Hinch touched on that I loved that he said, nobody on this team is mad after they get pinch hit, after they get substituted, after Holton comes out in the ninth inning one game, he comes out in the first inning the next game. There's no complacency. Everybody knows their role that they have on the team, and that's why this team works so well. That's why you take away your best bat on the field sometimes to let Andy Ibanez hit a lefty. And we saw that plenty of times. Teams are scared to throw to these matchups because they know how good AJ Hinch is with planning for matchups. And just going down the lineup, there are so many players who made an incredibly significant performance to the team throughout the entire season. Parker Meadows, one of the guys, I'm going to lump Torkelson in this as well. One of the guys who went down to AAA early in the season. They were struggling hard. Torkelson couldn't find a swing. Parker Meadows, the average was really low. But you've seen that change. And not many organizations are you going to find a player who has struggled, a player who has been sent down to AAA before, goes back to AAA, fixes their problems, comes back even better. He's just shy of an 800 OPS after the time he came back from Toledo. It was around a 500 OPS, 550 before that for Torkelson. And obviously Parker Meadows has been mind-blowingly better. He has been the best fielder on the team. He is absolutely elite. He covers so much ground. What cannot be said about Parker Meadows? And there's so many other guys in the outfield that can do it too. Wenzel Perez. He made the play of the game today. He made the play that the city won't forget. Falling over, Parker Meadows ducking. Wenzel Perez with the catch. Comes down with the ball. Game, set, match. Tigers in the playoffs. There's no bigger, significant contribution you can give to a team than clinching them to make the playoffs for the first time in 10 years. Yes, it was a team performance, but the play, that's on Perez. Obviously there was some miscommunication. There was some miscommunication earlier in the game. But you know what? The Tigers were able to do it. The Tigers were able to find a way when only few believed. When only few believed. And obviously, there are stars on this team. We saw early in the season, there were some MLB Network, some national analysts saying, there's not a lot of star power on this team. There is. Tarek Skubal, Riley Green, Kerry Carpenter. The list goes on. Andy Ibanez, I can even put in that. And I know people are going to say, oh, he can only hit lefties. He hits lefties better than anybody else in the league. You can debate a wall. Matt Vierling, transitioning to third base, playing it like one of the best in the league. Justin Henry Malloy coming up, had struggles, worked through it and got better throughout the season, is one of the best locker guys in the entire roster. And he, even as a rookie, just shy of a 700 OPS, he has been able to be a role model for some of the younger guys in the locker room, which sounds crazy, but it's not. I mean, really, like the oldest person in the locker room is Matt Vierling, and Matt Vierling is 28. And obviously, he's been to a World Series. This is a big moment for him. The city has embraced Matt Vierling. The city has embraced Trey Sweeney, Jake Rogers, Colt Keith. And I think Jake Rogers' impact is probably the most underrated. He's caught Skubal. He's done everything he can on defense. He's even emerged on offense. He struggled a little bit at the beginning of the year, but now he's shown his stripes. Obviously, double-digit home runs on the year, over 600 OPS. His performance should also not be forgotten. There are just so many players on this team that have made a significant impact to this team. And I can go on forever, or we can both celebrate. It's a Tigers win. It's a Tigers playoff clinch for the first time since 2014. Just imagine how Miguel Cabrera is feeling in this moment. Just imagine how Jim Leland is feeling in this moment. Just imagine the waves this Tigers team has made around the city. Job's not finished, but they did a hell of a job today. There's still 2 games left on the season, but how about them Tigers?